tubes to load, and then we will get this party started. Give it just a moment here, guys. Let me get everything set up, and hopefully we have a nice solid live stream with plenty of people coming through. Algo should be strong on the tubes today due to me not putting a whole lot up. So hopefully that means we get a lot of topics, we get a lot of questions, we get a lot of conversations, but we'll see how this does on both platforms. The algorithm is up right now on Facebook, so I have a feeling there's going to be people in both. I hope that I am able to keep up if that happens. Actually, that's a good thing. I actually don't want to put that out as a bad thing. I hope it actually is what happens, and we get tons of people on both platforms, and we get some good conversations. It's going to look like the views are kicking up on the tubes already. So let's get this party started. Hey, everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Thought I would sit down and do a live Q&A for you. I don't have a topic for the day, so I don't have a current events, but you guys can tell me what's going on. I've covered all the stuff on Facebook. All right, I've covered it pretty heavily on Facebook, and I've had a huge amount of outreach. Even Big Zeke came in and commented in my post, from strongman competitors. What's going on, Peppermint? What's going on? Yeah, I thought I'd get in here and do this. I'm kind of implementing what I said I was going to do, Peppermint. We did only doing the one live today. I did an informative video out of my backlog, put up the training footage. The workout was really good today. Super happy with today's workout. Facebook is really flowing again for me right now. Yeah, we're definitely going to do the one live a day. But the Facebook stuff is picking up pretty crazy. Coach, audio sounds weird. It shouldn't. Let me double check the sound volumes up. It should be good unless it's doing something funny. It might have redone the settings. Right? I don't know. I'll have to double check what it's doing with the lives here in a bit. But me checking that kind of made it hard to read. Any plans? I don't discuss any of my private plans in public. So that's just one of my rules I have online. So I won't discuss any of my plans for holidays or get-togethers with the public. Hopefully you understand, Giovanni. But I don't know. They might have redone something to where it's not using my external mic. I'm having to recheck it every time for YouTube. I don't know if Facebook is acting a little different there or not. Well, no. Peppermint, he's talking about on Facebook, right? Yeah, the tubes is fine. Like I checked the setting here. Like I selected the microphone manually. So it might be something where Facebook is trying to use my webcam mic now instead of my default mic, which is my desktop one. But yeah, guys, let's I guess get some conversations going. You guys already know my take on trans stuff in sports. I believe that women's divisions are for people born as women. I don't even agree with the idea that we need trans specific divisions. That's ludicrous. That's why we have open. So we need to be clear. The whole idea of giving women their own divisions should never go in the direction of, well, now we need all these other. No, we don't. Men's divisions are not intended to be men's divisions historically. They would be called open, really. Right? Just like age classes, you have masters and juniors and things, and then you have open. Essentially, historically in sports, the open main classes were men's classes, right? So it simply makes sense from that perspective that anyone who is not carrying exactly female chromosomes, genetically women, just would compete in the open, which would be the men's, right? You really only need those two categories. So I disagree with the entire idea at all that people say silly stuff like, well, we should have a third division. No, there's just simply no reason. Hey, Jason, is there an explanation as to why so many people seem to get sleepy or run down after meals? Is due to blood flow being reduced to the brain? It's largely blood sugar. It's usually a glycemic type response. Matt says, "What's up, Scope? Perfect timing. Sitting down with my eggs, avocado, and broccoli. There you go. I had for my breakfast. I had steak, eggs, avocado, peppers, spinach, all that stuff. I'll put up pictures on Facebook later. So, but Sean, it's generally an issue of shifts in blood sugar and glycemic type response. Is oftentimes what causes sleepiness after a large meal, right? No, it's not tryptophan. That's been overhyped. Remember, people used to say that silly stuff. Oh, it must be the tryptophan in turkey. Like if that was the case, then a whey protein shake would cause you to be sleepy. Eating a steak would cause you to be sleepy. You know, any meat, any dairy, and that's not the case. It's those very large meals with all the sweets and the large glycemic load. You know, when people have a big feast, it causes that. You know, it's relatively straightforward. All right. But yeah, so that stuff's been kicking off. So Facebook's really, I'm having multiple threads that are kicking off really high, and it's just spinning into more and more traffic. Right. Tryptophan, as I was taught to think of it, is remember the the one letter amino acid. Right. Oh man. But get those likes up, guys. So we'll see if anything else happens. I want to watch Facebook close. I've got to remember to do that. But if I'm only doing one live a day and it's not super long, I can keep an eye on both platforms. Much easier because I can tab back and forth. I used to get really tired with that because I would be, you know, just spending hours in the coffee chat. But yeah, it felt refreshing to not sit down and do all those, man. I'm going to enjoy, I think, doing just one afternoon, I think, with everybody. And hopefully they do well. I really should have put that topic in the title, right? I almost feel like I should have. Maybe I should. Let me adjust the topic. Let me put that into the title, see if that takes. Hopefully that saved the changes. Doesn't do anything too crazy there. But you inspired me to go with the higher fat and lower carb route for a while, not to go no carb, but I'm keeping it just above 100 grams. Yeah, that can be reasonable. You know, the only thing is when you start doing higher fat, carbs have to be lower by default or you end up just overeating. Well, it's not about the hormones forbidden. These are untested sports. It's the simple fact of the matter is it's non-women trying to compete as women, and women's divisions exist for a reason. You know, and here's the other thing that's crazy. Like, why don't we see the raging hardcore feminists screaming about this? You know, they should have been calling this out when Falon Fox got in the ring, because let's just call it what it is. Falon Fox is the first time we had a fighter, a trans fighter, get in the ring with a woman, and the other woman was not made aware that this person was born a man before they got in the ring, and she got her skull broke. You guys remember that? She got her skull fractured in the first fight where that happened with Falon Fox. Why weren't these feminists, right? Why weren't all these feminists screaming in outrage that we just celebrated a man getting in a ring and beating the holy hell out of a woman, somebody who was born as a man biologically, just got in a ring on international television and beat the hell out of a woman and fractured her skull. And then we're up here celebrating it in the name of equal rights. Idiocracy is becoming a documentary. No, Bobby, I disagree. No, I don't think we need a trans league at all. I explained that already. Here's why. They have been speaking up and they get labeled turfs and bullied by trans. Exactly. Oh, true, Luke, they do. And that's just ludicrous. Ludicrous. So good, we're getting comments in both platforms now. Everything's flowing good. My Facebook has really been kicking off again this last couple of weeks. It's on a good upward trend. These controversial topics, getting people in here. But no, they don't need their own divisions. Men's divisions have always been the open, right? Women's divisions were created to be completely separate because women are going to be at a disadvantage for anything involving even stamina. Like even marathon runners, men tend to win out. Is to give women an equal playing field against other women. That was the whole idea. So trans don't need their own league. If you are not classified as a woman with an XX, you compete in the open. It's for everyone who's not a woman. So the trans can all compete in the men's. Just treat all the men's divisions like open, problem solve. It's very straightforward. No, they don't need their own league. And nobody's interested in that. Nobody's interested in seeing a trans league. There's no audience for it. And quite frankly, no one cares. Yeah, you also never see the women who become men ever being competitive. Right. Right, absolutely. No, I don't think they should win. They should just compete in the men's. Problem solved. The Rush says, my Insta feed is full of people shilling kettlebell routines, like tons of them. Why so popular? I have no idea, man. I haven't seen it. I mean, and I think kettlebells can be useful. I have a few kettlebells. I have like 4 or 5 kettlebells. I use them on occasion. I mean, I think kettlebells can be a useful tool, but they certainly should. You're never going to get a complete optimal workout just from kettlebells. I don't know why they're trying to shill them. They're just a valuable tool, and for general athleticism. I think martial artists and stuff definitely. Like I said, I mean, I have some kettlebells. I like them on occasion for certain things. I absolutely like them with certain things. But this idea that anyone thinks that they're going to be some sort of primary modality doesn't even make sense. They're just another, smaller tool in the toolbox. I think they revoked. They did it really fast, Bobby. They did it like within 24 hours. So I have a massive couple of threads on that on Facebook, and I mean they got a lot of conversation in them. Like I have a lot of banter from yesterday, and I mean a bunch of big names even dropped through there. Some pretty prominent people dropped into my conversations on it. So I've definitely covered this there, just haven't really covered it here. But no, they stripped it immediately. And Andrea's coach, the woman who was awarded it after, like when the guy was disqualified, Andrea, who took second place, was given the award. I saw what Lawrence, her coach, said about it. He was very tactful about it, right? I mean, you see the conditioning I do on camera. I document all my training a lot. That med ball is 30 pounds. It's pretty much the heaviest med ball I could find at the time. Right? It's the heaviest one Titan makes and that most companies make. There's a few out there you can dig around and find, but at the time it was the heaviest one I could get easily. So I just have a 30 pounder. Yep. Well, it is oftentimes the men who can't cut it. What would you allege the top risk factors for kidney health are other than pre-existing conditions, genetic abnormalities? I don't know. I don't feel qualified to give you an answer on that. Not to say that I don't know a lot about disease in the human body, but your specific question, I don't feel personally qualified or knowledgeable enough on that specific one to have an opinion. So I feel like me attempting to answer that question would do it a disservice. That you should probably take it to someone who has more specific medical expertise in that area. Just remember you saying you don't like Eddie Hall. I mean, that's a bold statement. Did I say I don't like Eddie Hall? Or did I point out that Eddie Hall is known for being kind of an asshole? Like he's known for being kind of an asshole in person, was always my understanding. You know. Human rights, especially those linked to alpha community, were just designed. Not all human rights, but some of them were interesting. Interesting note though: heaviest of all you throw around is 30 pounds. Olaf, I feel like you've got me muted or something because I answered your question in detail and you re-asked it, and you're like, "Can you see me?" I just explained all of that to you. I gave you a highly detailed answer. Like scroll back or rewind the video. You should be able to do that. I gave you a detailed answer already to your question. You got like a 45-second long answer. Okay. No, I've never coached any trans clients. Do you not understand how small of a group that is? Like, do people not grasp this is such a tiny, 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 tiny segment of the population? You are unlikely to know any. Jason, keep the belt squatting guarantee. I mean, belt squats helped me before. Oh, thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, thanks for catching that, Connor. Being on top of that. Same guy, we just banned him automatically. All right, Alpha. Bringing up a handicapped individual like that, I'm going to put you up for a vote. You've already passed another previous vote. Now you're going to start bringing up Stubing, given the medical history of this person. I'm just going to put you up for a Kapow vote. No, I never gave this person advice. So you're straight trolling at this point. All right, Kapow, go. You're up for the vote. Anybody voting? I'm going to let it run for just a minute. Connor gives a Kapow. That's one Kapow. Anybody else? Bobby gives a Kapow. Joe gives a keep. I'll show some mercy since it's Thanksgiving and it wasn't that bad. Notice they haven't deleted their comment even though they're up for a vote. So we're tied so far. Anybody else voting? What's the vote about? This person has already been put up for vote previously. They're bringing up, but didn't you give advice to Crystal Stubing, knowing that I never gave any coaching or advice to Mark Stubing? And this is a very person with brain damage due to a childhood accident and is seriously mentally ill. Intentionally lying is a Kapow. Yeah. Well, I don't know that they're intentionally lying here, but they're bringing up. But that is lying. They know that they know that I never gave this person. So that's true. That's a Kapow. All right, Alpha Destiny, you have been voted on by a jury of your peers and been found guilty of being a weirdo troll who keeps bringing up stuff that you know is going to get you banned. You have been found guilty by a jury of your peers. The sentence is death. May God have mercy on your soul. For the live stream will not. Kapow! And you'll out of here. Awesome. Happy Thanksgiving to you guys too. It's a little bit of shake and bake. Since I'm obviously late to the party on the voting thing, I vote for whichever is the correct answer. Boom. There you go, Sean. Fair enough. Booyakasha. So, yeah. There's something I hate about commercial gyms is how people camp out on the benches or the squat rack for over an hour playing on their phones. You just have to work in, man. It ain't cool being a jive turkey so close to Thanksgiving. I mean, Alpha Destiny Rack Pull there knew that they've crossed the line a few times. They've been voted on previously. There's a certain point where you just know you probably should stop trolling. Right? Coach, the 4 to 8 rep range seems to be the new fad in the fitness industry. Everyone's preaching it now. I love the 48, but there's life beyond. Absolutely, I agree. I need turkey and stuffing like I need air. Oh my God. As a strength coach and someone who knows a lot about powerlifting, do you think of someone natty weighing 162 and benching 315? Always, when you talk to me on strength standards, I assume you mean a correctly done bench, right? We're not talking bouncing it off their chest and lifting their butt and humping in the air, because that's not impressive for anybody. I don't even think it's impressive for a 120-pound girl to do that. If you have to bounce the bar and trampoline it and then hump the air and your ass lifts 8 inches off the bench, it is not impressive to bench anything below a world record. Like even a benching a 405 or a 500 is not impressive. It's just not, because you're using so much bounce. Like, I don't know, man, how much bounce did you get off the chest? So for someone doing it correctly, I would say that's quite impressive. But why do we need all these qualifiers? You know, because there comes a point where people will specialize to do that. Did they not train their legs? Did they stay really, you see what I'm saying? I don't think we need all these qualifiers. Strong is strong. So the thing to remember, the more qualifiers you have to add, the less impressive the lift becomes. I view it the opposite. Right? I view it the opposite. The more qualifiers we add, it's like, why are we, a strong bench is a strong bench. But generally speaking, yeah, I mean, that's very, very good. That's relatively rare air that they're breathing. Right. Have you ever had someone work out unreasonably close to you in a public gym? Yeah, I've knocked dudes over in the public gym who backed into me while I was lifting. I've hit somebody with a barbell before. When I was in the UK, man, people were weird about that. I've hit a dude with a squat bar that I had 4 plates on each side loaded. I literally hit him in the head with the plates while the bar was on my back. I've knocked a guy over while deadlifting in a British gym. Yeah, some people have no awareness of their surroundings. I would say in the US, I've not necessarily had that, but in UK gyms, especially when they get packed in a little tight, a little of the commercial gyms, I have literally made contact with other men with the bar or with my body while doing heavy squats or deadlifts and knocked them down. Well, the Brits will appreciate this. So the first one, the guy was yobbing off. Oh, mate, and he backed into my rack and leaned back on it while I was squatting, while yobbing to one of his friends across the room. And when I screamed move because I needed to rack my weight, he didn't move fast enough. I had 180 kg sitting on my back. I really needed to rack it, and he was in the way. I screamed move, and I gave him 1 second, and he didn't move, and I racked it. He had ample warning. He saw me squatting. He crashed. And then he got up, and then they yelled at him. They tried to talk, and I yelled at him. I was like yelling at him, and he was trying to go to the front desk, and it's like I'm yelling at him all the way up to the front desk and telling him what happened. And then he got scolded up there. They're like, someone hits you with a loaded barbell in the squat rack, it's your own fault. I mean, Yeah. That's KO worthy offense and appropriate. Yeah. Taylor's a British lake. He was a yobbing at one of his friends in Cockney or whatever language he was speaking. Well, I knew the manager up at the front desk, and she's yelling at him too, because she knew I was a pretty serious lifter. And she was actually from Romania, and so she didn't put up with it either. But it was when I used to train at once or twice a week because it was really close. It was like a 2 to 3 minute walk from my front door. So I had a side membership there, and I would go in sometimes. Yeah. But they had a squat rack and they had bars and plates. Yeah, she was Romanian. It was hilarious. I got to know her. It's funny. So it's quite funny. Like, she didn't put up with it. No, it was a little tiny commercial gym. It was like one of those little fitness for less. I think that was the chain. Yeah, and then I had another guy in the middle of me deadlifting. I was doing 5-plate deadlift for reps. Some dude came over right there where I was over on the floor. And I guess he set over to do like an incline bench or something. And he sat down on the bench and dropped it like right up almost behind my butt. And when I stood up and locked my deadlift out, I bumped him and knocked him down. It's just like, are you serious? So there were a couple incidents like that. Definitely that doesn't happen in the US. But it was a crowded little weight room sometimes. But man, that's where you learn a lot about the Brits and the amount of gear, because at that little gym, it's not a serious gym, right? And you start chatting. You start chatting with people, and you find out how many of these dudes who only train their arms and chest do all these orals. Like, the number of British dudes who you meet in those environments who they start chatting with you about what all they take, and they don't train their legs. It's fascinating. Do you ever find yourself having a superiority complex in a commercial gyms? I mean, I don't know. I didn't start out in commercial gyms though. All right. Yeah, isn't that you get roid accusations? That'll happen. I mean, the difference is, Joe, I mean, in a way that I started off at an old school iron gym with hundreds of York plates in it. And there were people who competed in a few different sports. There were some triathletes there, like there was a national level arm wrestler, several power lifters, a couple of NPC guys and gals. So it's like my first gym was a pretty serious, old school type gym. And that's where I kind of got my start. And then my second gym after that, I went over to Gold's. Definitely common, but the insecure energy puts you off, right? Yeah, is what it is. You're also in the UK where everyone's on gear. Yeah, I remember Coach, right? Cool. Is taking dips past parallel just increase stress on the joint? No, it's actually beneficial. You should do dips as low as you reasonably can, as your range of motion allows. You said everyone was surprised how much you deadlifted, right? Because I hadn't deadlifted before. When you're doing higher fat, do you get 2 to 5% Greek, or you just keep it? These days, I keep it 0%. I used to get the full fat. Now I just use the fat free, because I can add healthy fats in place of the saturated. All right. I can mix natural peanut butter and walnuts in to get the fat content up without adding all that saturated fat. You don't want to be adding a bunch of saturated fat unnecessarily. Yeah, I came in and I pulled 455 my first day, first time deadlifting. Yeah, 455. But I had a base already. Let's be clear. Like I was already squatting 4 plates. So it kind of matters. Because it was essentially, if I remember correctly, I think I just did a double with 405 on a squat. And a couple of the power lifters were there. They're like, damn, man, how much do you deadlift? And I was like, I don't know. I've never deadlifted. They're like, well, come on. So they dragged me over to the platform. Can structure influence bench carryover? I find I get amazing carryover from incline overhead press on flat. The dips don't carry over, but for you, it seems the opposite. Structure and then grip width, right? Structure and grip width matter a lot. Like how wide do you grip? So if you're a closer grip bencher versus a wider grip, I would say honestly, the really wide grip guys tend to get a lot out of those. I find when I was close gripping, I didn't get any carryover. But I think I would get carryover now. But dips, I've always carried over for me. Yeah. So, Joe, I would need to see what's happening both with your structure and your technique and grip width and stuff. Let's use an arbitrary number for a 200-pound lifter. About how many carbs would you tell them to eat if they're trying to gain a small surplus? I wouldn't. You would look at calories for a small surplus. There's no way to know how many carbs. There's literally no way to approximate that. We would just be ascribing an arbitrary number also. Damn, they put you on the spot. Well, they taught me to deadlift, but I managed to get a really grindy 405, 455 because I kept going up, and I got to 405. I'm like, that wasn't that hard, man. I just rewatched your overhead press instruction video back from the UK. Man, that's got to be like 13 years old. What percentage of a diet would typically? I don't ever use percentages at all. I mean, anywhere between 5 up to 70% of your diet, depending upon what you're doing with your diet. Your medium grip, 6'8" wingspan. Yeah, you probably just need a lot of shoulder when you bench then. Will you allow yourself to do a cheat meal for an upcoming holiday? I have to at least have a slice of pie. I'm not going to even discuss that. So, because that gets into my personal life and plans. Coach, how's everything after the tornado? For me or for other people, Tyrone? Like I'm completely undamaged. Other than that power loss, I don't think I had a single bush disturbed. Yeah. No, I mean I get what he's saying. I understand what he's asking, but I keep my personal just completely out. I mean, I've done as much as 70% carb. My diet was probably 70% carb just a few weeks ago. But I was eating almost no fat. I don't know. I don't ever track anything that closely, to be fair. I've never felt the need. I didn't have to lose 100 plus pounds when I was younger. Right. Well, it's only borderline because it's asking, do you have plans? Yeah. And at this point, I prefer to keep my non-training life completely off the internet. Even though I'm European, I love Thanksgiving because there are 3 NFL games during the day. Great stuff. All right, fair enough. Because I feel like you would make a good extra in modern Western movie. What? Maybe. You'd make a good main. Or you did see me being an extra, though, right? On Facebook years ago, I put up a picture of me as an extra in a small independent film in the background, playing the guitar in a cowboy hat. There's a picture up. It was a horror film though. But, so I've been an extra, but they're independent film. No, I'm basically playing the guitar in a bar. Like I'm in the background playing an acoustic guitar, wearing a cowboy hat with boots and a cowboy hat on in a bar. It was the same time period as the butcher though. Yeah, those were paid roles though. So I mean, if people say, "Have you ever been a paid actor?" Well, yes, actually have. I've been an extra in a little horror short. Um, well, I've been an extra in a couple of those, and then I did the whole acting at Phobia in the haunted house, which was paid. Like we were paid every night, and then we got bonus pay. We got boo bonuses. I got multiple boo bonuses to where they throw you an extra $20 for the night for the exit interviews. So if they felt you were particularly scary, and then the owners came through to do a run, and they liked me. So the actual owners who were paying and financing and running the whole thing, they came through, and I guess I scared the holy hell out of one of their wives. That goes good because they're paying. Like, dude, this is great. You seen the movie Bone Tomahawk? No, I haven't seen that one. Because you hear ICE agents are being paid $100K a year. I mean, yeah, I can see that. All right. La Migla. Ted's wishing me happy Thanksgiving. He just uploaded his footage. ICE agents are balling, right? Do they have to sign a liability form for any health scares during the haunted tour? I think you do have to sign a waiver, yeah. To go through that haunted house, right? To go through that haunted house that we did, because you've seen my pictures in it, right? I put up a whole photo shoot and pictures from those before. People are like, yeah, you're actually pretty scary. No, they had to sign a waiver when we did that. Keep in mind, it's Phobia Houston. It was the haunted house I did that year. That's been, what year was that? 2015, 2016, something in that range. It's been a little while. But no, my ex and I did the whole season. So yeah, I was pretty much muscular butcher. So my room was a slaughterhouse, like with pig squeals and strobe lights. I put them up. They're buried pretty far on my Facebook, but they're there. There should be a whole playlist for them if you dig far enough back on the Facebook fitness page. There's about 20 pictures. So my room was a pig slaughterhouse, splattered in blood and like wood panels and wood dents all through there, with strobe lights on timers and speakers playing pigs squealing in the background. Yeah, it was in the keto days. Do you like any rowing variations besides been? I like dumbbell rows. I like one arm dumbbell rows a lot, actually. But then different bars too. I like axle bars. No, we used fake blood, dude. We went through so much fake blood. We had to buy it by the gallon. So at the time, we went through gallons of it. So I think we bought like 5 gallons of fake blood for that total. So her and I did at the time, and then all her makeup and everything. I don't have any pictures still up, but a bunch of those she went is basically like a demon. So she pretty much painted her entire body black and had horns and everything. So So she changed it around a few different times, but some of the nights she went just pretty much as a demon with horns. Blaze. Is a front raise just a fluff exercise? No, I think front raises can be useful, especially for elite powerlifters who need it for weak point training. I mean, a lot of pro bodybuilders are going to use them. No, they can have their place in weak point training if you want a single joint movement. But keep in mind, those are always going to be secondary exercises at the end of the day. All right. But yeah, no, we went through a lot of fake blood during that. But no, I got good at doing that because we did this so many nights. We did it several nights a week for like a month straight. So it was like a 3 or 4 time a week. So it was like 20 hours. It was like part-time for the whole season. But I got really good at using my room. Although they did take me to Rise of the Machine one night when they were short-staffed. But we were in Dark World, was our house, which was the most expensive one because they charged you per house. Like you had to buy tickets for the different events. So ours was the most expensive one. But I got really good at using my strobe lights in the room. Like when you get good at it, you learn to teleport in the haunted house. So because I knew I had it timed in my head and I knew that I had 4 seconds of pitch black every 40 seconds or something like that. I had 4 full seconds of a completely pitch black room. And I knew my layout perfectly. So during that 4 seconds, you could pretty much teleport. Not sure, Scott. I have no idea either, man. What's going on, Ted? Jason, I wish I could do reaction videos. Be interested in your take on Diamond Gym. Yeah, I don't want to do reactions. Do you remember roughly the first split? And I think it wasn't a split. I just did, squats, cleans, bench press, so on. No, they're going in signing waivers. Like this is no, Alan. No one did that. There were cases of it, but there's also police. They have a dozen police on hand. So if someone does assault you, they're going to prison. Like you can't hit the haunted house workers going in. Not only have you signed a waiver, there are police on hand. You're going to be arrested. We would be able to call that in pretty quick. And the police would probably meet you at the exit on the way out and arrest you, and you'd probably catch a felony. They did have a situation where a woman busted out her pepper spray and she got cuffed and stuffed. She got charged for spraying someone with her pepper spray. No, usually people just wanted to get away from me. That's all they wanted. Yeah, cuffed and stuffed. Well, assaulting someone, Blaze. Like you're going through a haunted house paying to be scared and you put your hands and strike somebody. Like, dude, you just signed a waiver to go through a terrifying haunted house. You can't assault the people, the actors. The cards from Fruit not as good for energy as the cards from Granger Potatoes. No, they're fine, dude. They're fine. Diamond Gym guys don't do the workouts with the guys in the car, which is why they're bigger. Just to supervise you in case you drop in for a set. I don't even know what the Diamond Gym is. No, Alan, I can tell you, having scared thousands of people working at the haunted house that year, thousands of people. That's not what anybody does. You have to sign a waiver on the hard hat. They have medical personnel. their paramedics and stuff ready. No, they didn't want us strapped. So I'm not going to discuss that. Do you have any preference for carbs between dairy, fruit? I mean, I'd lean in the direction of starchy carbs, but fruit is probably fairly interchangeable if you have an efficient digestive system. I guess that would be dependent upon your gut health. Like someone with a healthy gut, they're not going to be distinguishable. If you don't have really, really, really good gut flora, we could make the case for starchy carbs. Were your tools real or just props? What do you mean? Oh, I didn't carry any weapons in there. I didn't need them. I wore a chain around my neck. It was a real chain. No, I didn't need a machete or a chainsaw. I didn't need it, dude. I had my shit down perfect. I got boo bonuses all the time. And especially if someone admitted that they shit themselves, they gave you extra money. So if on an exit interview, anyone admitted to shitting their pants and said that you're the one who caused it, they paid you extra. And yes, I got paid for that, for making a grown man shit himself, literally. Extra money. But you would have to see the layout to understand. No, dude, I had a guy throw his girlfriend at me and say, "Here, take her," and he pushed her and ran. I had stuff like that happen. So usually when you're doing the haunted house, the trick with the teleport, you see the crowd coming through because they're working people through, and your crowd's never going to be more than 12 people. They'll break them up on you. So you're going to get 3 to 12 people coming through. And so with mine, when you teleport on them, especially if you're behind something or they don't realize that you can quite get to them, because I'm behind a wooden fence, when those lights go out, when you teleport into the crowd, because they're going to see it as a teleport, I know that I just slipped through. So usually you can find the scaredest person. So if you watch your people coming through and you're doing your act, right, you can find the weakest link in the group. And so this is how you get the boo bonuses. The main thing is you got to keep the crowd moving. So you want to terrify the crowd towards the exit, not towards the entrance. So when you see the scaredest person in the group, like each group comes through, you can pick them out. You can pick them out of the group. They're the one cowering behind the others. They're the one hiding. That person is your target. Like that's your mark right there. That is the weak link. When the lights go out and you can shift into the crowd, you want to get right behind that person. You want to be 6 to 8 inches, 10 inches behind them when the lights come back on, when the strobe flips back, because it's going to be flickering and it's going to go dark for 4 seconds. I have 4 seconds to move. When that happens, you get right up on that person and you just scream fresh meat. Or I just want to buy fresh meat. Just give me one taste. And you're screaming it in their ear. That person freaks out. They will climb over other people. They will do anything to get away from you at that point. They'll push people down. They'll climb over somebody. And once that happens, no, you're not supposed to touch them. No, we scream. I don't know where you go get training. So I knew people already who were doing it year after year, like personal friends. So we knew people in it already. But once that person breaks, the whole crowd freaks. Because once they're sufficiently terrified, right? I got boo bonuses. I got several of them. But we got paid no matter what. And we would have after meetings and everything. So at the end of the night, obviously you have a closing shift and meeting and everything. And then they give out boo bonuses. So at the closing meeting every night, they handed out cash bonuses. Let me check back over to Facebook. much happening there. What's your opinion on 2 weeks full body, 3 times a week? Then 2 weeks bro body split is getting more rest time. I don't know. That sounds really complicated. What was the cleanup process for that? I wasn't on the cleanup crew. I was an actor. Were you the scariest? I don't know because I didn't know see. I mean, there were some scary other. I mean, there was definitely some other scary people. So apparently, the guy after me was pretty scary too, but he was basically a chef trying to get them into his cooking pot after they went through my slaughterhouse. So he was a big fat dude, and he wore a chef hat and had all this crazy makeup and stuff on, and he had a big cleaver. And then they had a guy there with a chainsaw behind him. But so after they got through my room, they went through a maze right behind me to get through, and they didn't have to get through my ex. And then they would hit his room. Yeah. If someone threw their poop at you, that would be assault. They would go to prison. Throwing fecal matter at a person in Texas is a felony. It's because I cannot recover with three weekly full body sessions, but I love them. So my idea was to have a shorter. I mean, you could, or you could simply adjust the volume. You could scale back. Were there any vegans? I'm sure there were, Blaze. I mean, if 50,000 people come through your thing, statistically, there had to be some vegans. I mean, you saw everybody there. You know, you saw everybody there. You know, and there's going to be different stuff for different reasons. Wasn't somebody, I don't even think the vegans were bothered. So I can tell you who definitely didn't like my room. When you would see Muslims come through and like the women in their hijabs and things, they definitely did like the pig room. Like get the hell out of here. It's like, as you can imagine, I mean, Connor would say, yeah, you could see that. Like they didn't want nothing to do with my room, but they got to go through it. You know, that was connections. Yeah. No, I did have people who recognized me though. It's Jason Blaha later, like on social media. So people are like, "Oh my God, was that you at Phobia?" Yep. But keep in mind, dude, they're not there to socialize. So beyond context, was like 12 minutes deep into a haunted house. Okay, makes sense. So people who were meeting me in there have spent over 10 minutes in the house already. I am in a room with strobe lights going. It's not like people had time to stop to talk. And they're wanting to get out of there. Like, so by the time people get to you, they're pretty psychologically hit. Does that make sense? So it's not like, oh, this is fresh. Like these are people who at that point, you know, their stress level is up. And so then they're seeing, you know, Jason Blaha, maybe Jason Blaha, like someone's recognized later, you know. So they didn't allow alcohol. I'm going to leave that alone. Keep in mind that no, these people partied. That's kind of funny. So honestly, the phobia crowd had a huge overlap with the Rennies. So a lot of the people who do phobia are Ren Fair people also. So these are people who do multiple different festive type gigs and things, a lot of the people. And if you know anything about Rennies, they party. They party hard. Be careful is a good way to catch STZs partying with the acting crowd. Just saying. All right. You know how alcohol is the least of your worries of that crowd. All right. Why do you think peptide users, especially GLP-1 users, get so defensive when you bring up how there are possible and known long-term side effects? Anabolic users are less defensive. I don't know what you're talking about, Julian. Like, I don't have a frame of reference for that. It's still too new, and I don't see enough of the community. So I haven't seen examples of what you're talking about with the GLP-1 users being defensive about it. Maybe impacting your recovery, something to think about. You're doing too much volume. I mean, I think Joe is right. So Lars, I agree. It's probably your volume. Lars needs coach to get his routine in check. That's what I'm saying, Lars. Imagine how much we'd save on public policy because of reduced health care. By free, who's paying for it though, man? There is no such thing as free. Somebody's paying for it. Long-term side effects might be tolerable compared to the shortened lifespan from being severely overweight. That's kind of the direction I'm going with that. Like, you look at the possible risk and go, yeah, but how does that stack up from being 100 pounds overweight? I've done whole videos on GLP-1s. Like, I've done lengthy, detailed videos of my opinion. Lesser of two evils. They're almost a necessary evil, since the other approach hasn't worked, of giving people the time proven effective strategy like I used, which was, just go run and eat better. That's how I lost over 100 pounds originally. It hasn't worked. Right. So at this point, any means necessary to get the obesity epidemic under control. Muscle mass loss seems to be the issue from average users, though. But what does the data show on that, Trill? Why are they losing muscle? The drug doesn't cause any muscle loss. Let's be clear. Like, the actual drug itself is not catabolic in any way on Ozempic. Why are they losing muscle? Because of the calorie deficit. They're not lifting weights and eating protein and in a huge calorie deficit. That's why the doctors tell them you're supposed to increase your protein and lift weights when you take this drug optimally. So if they don't do that, of course they're going to lose muscle. But they would lose muscle on any diet that caused them to lose weight, right? Right. So hopefully people understand that. Notice the views are a lot better doing it this way. Only having one live in the afternoon. Hit those likes though, by the way, guys. Get those likes up, please. The trouble with GLP-1 is it will only know the cost benefit when the users are old enough to know the effects of the sarcopenia. Yeah, true. Any plans to return to the haunted house? No. I mean, it was fun, but it's in terms of my time versus the effort and all of that. No. Like, I wouldn't make enough money to justify my time, and then at my age, being up that late is just not really something that I would look forward to. With my training needs and at my age, I can't be up till 11 o'clock at night, midnight. you know. I mean, so why are they going to pay someone with my, like, they wouldn't do that. They hire the local actors. You know what I mean? It's not like there's good money in this. Jason, did you know that cheetahs are closer related to house cats than they are lions? No, I did not know that. But I mean, it was a fun little side gig that we did. It was a lot of fun. You know, made a little money doing it, but it wasn't like, it was minor supplemental income. Like I had my YouTube and other stuff going at that time. I don't even remember what it paid, but it wasn't like enormous sums of money. I mean, I charge $100 an hour, Tyrone. I get $100 an hour for consultations all the time. I could imagine it would be a huge exposure from, how so? Why would it be a huge exposure from a business perspective? I'm an actor 10 minutes deep into a haunted house. I don't think you guys think these things through when you say something like that. Really, it was no huge exposure from a business perspective when I did it. What's the tallest guy you've ever trained? I don't know, mid sixes. I would have to go look, but I've had a couple of guys in over 6'4" as clients, probably at least 3 or 4. Yeah, so it was a part-time evening gig, you know, and it was fun. You know, it was fun, and I mean, we already knew some of the other people there. Um, you know, and it was a good fun social thing too. I mean, I get beyond's point. You know, how would you train an off-season sumo wrestler? I don't know, and I wouldn't. They wouldn't allow that, Joe. I'm not Japanese. I think that would be a problem for them. They have their own special schools, they have their own special stuff. And me being non-Japanese, my understanding is they could be ostracized by having a non-Japanese trainer. But I have no idea how I would train them, and why would we need to? Yeah, due to the cultural thing, it could actually cause them problems to even to do that. Does a push press have any place in a lifting program if you're not an athlete? Sure, it can have its place. I have clients who do a little bit of push pressing. They have insanely strong legs, and that's like your specialty. Yeah, but the problem is I'm not a sumo specific coach, and it's a very cultural specific sport. I remember going on a ghost train as a kid. It was terrifying. Not sure what a ghost train is. Like a regular train that was supposedly haunted, you go on trips on. It was like a haunted house type thing. Yeah, as a kid, they didn't allow a lot of kids. Like they had to be. Um, Occasionally, some of the kids that they would let through would probably be a bit young for phobia. We had to tone it down a little bit when they'd come through. Because keep in mind, we were terrifying grown men. Let me be clear. When we did the haunted house, it's a pretty high level haunted house. It's not one of those where how do I put it? Like I've seen the Vatos come through with gang tattoos, still get scared, right? So there's your context. So again, so you've got to remember a haunted house like that. Again, let me explain again. It's not like a 1 minute walkthrough. Well, I don't know if they were cartel, probably not. This is in Houston, dude. So, but dudes who you would think of as not easily necessarily, not pussies, dude. So again, context for my house, you were 10 to 12 minutes deep already by the time they got to my room. You've just walked through 10 to 12 minutes of maze with scares and actors and strobe lights and crazy sounds and stuff going on for 10 to 12 minutes already. It's like a 15-minute long house to walk through the whole thing. What if Alpha Destiny came to your haunted house? He probably just got scared like everybody else. Because this seems like weird questions, because it's like when I did it, it wasn't like only 50 people came through. So in an average night, I want to say how many people came through my room. It was like 3,000 to 4,000 people. It was not uncommon. It was in the thousands, and I saw hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people get terrified, like all night long, over and over and over and over and over and over. But yeah, a few people did recognize me. There were people online, dude, is that were you at Phobia? Were you the butcher guy? Like, was that you? Were you the dude at the pig house? Were you that butcher? Were you or like one of the guys I thought I wanted to say, were you the fresh meat guy? No, no one reached out for training. So there's no exposure. Like, I got no business in any way related to my training or internet from it. There was zero exposure. But I did have a handful of people online who did recognize me. So again, keeping in mind, you've seen the pictures, you've seen how I look in costume at the time. And then I'm not out in the middle of the field, except on breaks. When I'd go walk outside on the breaks, to walk around the grounds and go to the bathroom, take a breather, get a snack, whatever, get rehydrated. But you go through a lot of water and Gatorade and stuff. Like, you're having to hydrate because it's hot. Like, you're going to sweat a gallon out every single night. Hey, which only adds to the scare. You're in a slaughterhouse, people be getting stinky. But no one reached out, anything like that. Hold on, I don't know if I could find it quick or not. They wanted to see it. Let me see if I can find it. It's probably going to be too buried to find. I have so many pictures up on Facebook. I don't know if I can even find a link. Because you can only load so much at a time. So again, I don't think you guys understand. This is no way is helpful in any way, shape, form, or fashion to my internet business. A handful of people recognized me out of thousands and thousands and thousands. There were probably subscribers of mine who came through who didn't recognize me. I'm in a room with strobe lights. What do you mean bodybuilding shows? Have you ever seen me do a bodybuilding show? No, I was doing YouTube already. I had like 100,000 subscribers or 90,000 or whatever. This is only like 9 years ago. Yeah, I'm not sure Tom was. Yeah, Jason, was that when you competed in the Mr. Olympia? Everybody want to be a bodybuilder, but ain't nobody want to lift this heavy ass weight. Exactly. Thoughts on Mike P. Hearn? I don't know what you're asking me. Could you be very, very specific? I don't know that I had a really dark tan. I had a bit of a tan. But anyone can scroll far enough on Facebook and see it through the pictures, because you'll find a whole post with like 10 pictures or something in it. And I'm very clearly covered in blood and wearing a butcher's apron. It's really easy to see. It's not hard to pick out. So we'd go through half a gallon of fake blood a night. Although when I do put pictures up, people are like, okay, yeah, you look sick. Or like, people are like, oh yeah, I understand. And again, so you have to understand the context when people say, well, I wouldn't be scared. I'm like, well, you haven't been through a house like that. You haven't been broke down psychologically for 10, 15 minutes already. There's a 10-hour video of Ronnie yelling various phrases I like to listen to during respiratory sets. Have you ever had steak tartare? No. Do you have any trainees doing behind the neck barbell presses? Not currently, but I have at different points. I like them if you can do them. I think Ronnie Coleman has Asperger's. I mean, he could be on the spectrum. Yeah. I mean, he could be. No, and I'm assuming, I don't think you meant it as an insult. You're not the first person I've heard say that. I've actually know someone who said that they thought Louis Simmons also, due to his communication style, which is entirely possible. Like I can see why they might draw that conclusion. Geez, I post a lot of pictures. I'm still scrolling looking for it because it'll only load like 30 pictures at a time, and I got to scroll. Be nice to hear a riff. You do? No, I don't reverse grip. I did a little bit of reverse grip benching for a little while on camera here, but Mark Ripto is on the. I don't know. I don't think Ripto is. No, I don't get that impression from his mannerisms. I don't think he is. I could be wrong. You want to hear a riff? What riff you want to hear? Hold on for a moment. All right. I'll play just for a moment. He's just texting. How do you feel on Trinity Middle? I get horrific. I don't do Trent anymore. I haven't used Trent in a long time. I get pretty horrific mental sides on Trent. Irritability, insatiable sex drive, so on and so forth. All right. It's a little out of tune. I need to tune it. All right, you got a riff. I didn't want to do the whole intro too long. It takes too long. I just did a couple rounds of the intro first. All Or I just think about cutting off. For some reason I have no sex drive. Yeah, that was a whole lot of Rosie. So I cut the intro really short. I only did a couple of rounds of it because it's anyway. It's going to tell you a story about a woman I know. When it comes to loving, steals the show. You know the song. Sing along if y'all know the words. As Uncle Ruckus said. No, 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 no. How about we don't imitate Uncle Ruckus? Talk about getting myself canceled. Right? I spend 60 seconds quoting Uncle Ruckus. I'll be canceled forever. Right? You're still using the Axle bar. You see all my vlogs. So they're all there. I haven't used it too recently. So what do we mean by still? Are you asking, have I used it this year? Or is it currently in the mix this week? So be specific. I guess I'll go ahead and answer both. I haven't used it in at least a month, I don't think. But I've used it this year. Yeah, definitely in the past few months. What do you think about the Mike Israel's PhD scandal? I don't feel like covering it again. I don't feel like discussing the PhD scandal again, man. That's old news already, dude. Why are we still talking about this? That was the hit of the week like 2 months ago. Like no one cares anymore. They done moved on. The scandal this week is the world's strongest woman. Get with them times. That's old news. We're not talking about Larry Wheels. That was last week's. Larry Wheels, the scammer, was last week's big topic. This week, it's, the other thing. No one's talking about the Epstein files now that Trump signed it. All the Trump derangement syndrome people have given up since they know he signed it. They know they're not going to get anything out of it. They've moved on. We need informative topics. I dropped in informative. I'm only doing one live stream now a day. Right? So, you get informative videos. I'll try to do one most days now. Work them back into the mix. Got to work them back into the mix. I'm in the Facebook though. Not much happening there. Forum topics are boring. Everything that can be said at training. I know, but I'm gonna work them back in. How long? I'm not gonna run them super long each day, man. I get burned out doing too many of them. I've started to get burned out a lot, which is why I'm going to do one a day, and I'm not going to do them crazy long. Just however long I feel like. You guys had your crazy engaged lives, but I'm more creative on my Facebook stuff if I'm not spending all my time in lives. We give just enough to give content. Yeah, these just aren't getting enough views anymore. But I do feel like they have a place, and I need to have one in every day. And I think a live stream a day still, I think gold, still useful. But I might go ahead and wind this one down too, unless we have some topics. I do after training nap sometimes helps. I do sometimes too, honestly. Sometimes after my breakfast, I like a little 15, 20-minute nap since I work from home. So a lot of times I'll eat my big breakfast post-training, and then I'll take a little nap. Who's the scrummier person you're pinned between these three? Greg Doucette, Dr. Mike, or Larry Wheels? The only one who looks like he may have committed fraud is Larry Wheels, and Larry Wheels has been accused of domestic violence too. So if I've got to pin it down, Larry Wheels is going to be. The other two have done, so, you would think of as some scrummier stuff, but Larry Wheels has committed pretty significant fraud that's going to court. And he has been accused of domestic violence by an ex. Now, whether that latter is true, I don't necessarily believe a single ex-girlfriend, I wouldn't necessarily, that she might not just be being vindictive, but you at least have to take it seriously. Does that make sense? I don't think it's ever reasonable to outright dismiss a domestic violence accusation. Although you do got to beg the question, why didn't you bring it up a little sooner? And which is a reasonable question. That doesn't mean didn't happen though. Let me be clear. There can be reasons why they didn't. They were afraid to come forward and so on. But and it is a case of a public accusation of it. She went public with it. So it's kind of a big deal when she actually went public and put out her own video discussing the domestic violence. Again, doesn't mean he did it. Let's be clear. Let me be clear. Not saying that means he's guilty, but it's not a good look, right? People do get falsely accused, and we don't know the full history and a lot about her as a person, but it's not a good look. And then he's got this whole big fraud thing happening right now. It's not a good look. So, whereas in Mike just has his other stuff with, questionable ethics and intellectual dishonesty. It's not quite the same as is not scamming people, right? There's a big difference between people saying, well, maybe this PhD, maybe a lot of your programming is being used just to make money and it doesn't work, so on, right? That's not fraud, right? That's not fraud. It's poor ethics, but it's not outright fraud. Larry Wheels has been accused of allegedly, and is going to court, of actual financial fraud. Like there's a big difference between those two things. They're in completely different categories. Been the same thing accused of the domestic violence. Again, not a good look. And I think that's the thing you would look at it and go, sometimes we have to use our best judgment and go, well, he doesn't seem like the sort of guy, or does he? It's kind of like there's a lot of people you look at and go, man, I can't see that guy doing that. But is that the personality that you get from Larry Wheels? Oh, he'd never lay his hands on somebody. Like, does he strike you as having an ethical viewpoint or a mindset that would have a big problem with it? Which you have to weigh out. Your own personal views, when accusations are leveled, what your gut tell you. Is this story plausible? Is it just an angry ex lashing out, or is there something to it? Is it fit? But you have to always take an accusation like that serious. It's not appropriate to ever dismiss that sort of accusation outright. Oh, you're just a jealous ex. Well, no, we can't take that. Because again, that's how that stuff gets swept under the rug. The same thing with different types of child abuse and stuff. It's a big deal. And that's something I pointed out when haters try to jump up with my stuff with the child abuse and say, oh, he's lying. Like, you don't understand the problem you're creating by doing that. Like, you never, ever want to give a public message like that because of the damage you do to other people. And I don't think people understand that it's the reason that's not okay, even if you think that I'm lying. You don't want to publicly say that and put the message out on something like that, because that is a control tactic used on children. And so when other people, every person who was abused like that as a child, we were all told no one's going to believe us, right? Every single one of us were told that nobody is going to believe you. They're going to know that you're lying. They're going to call you a liar. No one's going to believe you. Almost every one of us are told that. So then if other abuse survivors who are still burying it are hearing people in public, oh, they lied about it. Where does their childhood programming go to? Yep, they were right. People don't believe you. It's a problem. So you don't ever want to reinforce that. And so we have to watch that also when it comes to domestic violence. Because a lot of people don't speak out because they're scared no one's going to believe them. It's not to the same extreme that it is with the child abuse stuff, but we do have to think about those things. And so that's a case of me saying, I don't want to dismiss it as, hey, this is just an angry ex, jealous ex lashing out or whatever, because of the message that sends, because I don't think it gets made up that often. I think the majority of accusations of something like that are probably real. And so I don't want to be the one, because a bunch of people did that. They were like, well, it's just a jealous ex. It's like, well, hold on, guys. I don't think we should automatically jump to that. You need to step back and assess and say, okay, wait, what does she got going? What's she saying? What's the context of it? Does she sound believable? Is he too much of a stand-up guy for it? But he doesn't strike you as a stand-up guy, does he? And here's the other thing. He's now been accused of fraud. Well, if he's being accused of fraud and he's literally stole money from a friend and is being sued for fraud over it, well, we know he's not a stand-up guy. I'm just calling it like it is. It doesn't take away from his ability as an athlete. It doesn't mean he's not a great lifter. Right? But he's not a stand-up guy. He's used extremely large amounts of drugs, anabolics that can increase aggression. Is it unbelievable? I mean, he's abused extremely high amounts, admittedly, excessively high amounts. It's not unbelievable that they could have caused some violence. When we start getting into the grams, it's not like he was only doing a little bit of test here, guys. I'm doing 2 or 3 grams. Not unreasonable to assume it could increase aggression. In someone who doesn't have a lot of inhibitions, maybe not a particularly, good person with a lot of restraint. Stuff we got to weigh out. And no one chimed in on that. I said all that and no one had much to say other than you think he was borderline gay with Andre, right? I didn't see any of that. All right. And just food for thought. People get upset when I say stuff like that. I always think it's fascinating, man. People can say just the most horrific, crazy lies about me. But I bring up something like that and people get offended. I'm like, well, where were you when people talk trash about me? And literally just made up stuff. This is all not made up stuff. All right. Oh, man. Just saying, yo. Yeah, this one is a little bit slow. It might be time to go ahead and wind it down. So, let's give you guys a bicep shot before we go. Oh, Mount Bicephalus. And we're out of here.